Hey guys, so this is a brand new MindStudio skill that I'm releasing, and it's going to really change the game in terms of how you're going to be making interfaces in MindStudio. So before I go into explaining what's going on here, let me explain to you the problem or what the situation is like right now. So this is the user input block in MindStudio. And if you go over here and you can click custom and you can click design, you come up to this interface here where it's basically you're the MindStudio designer and you can chat with it and then you can create a custom interface. And this is what this is. So you can create some interfaces with this, but the next level way of doing that is to go over here and select start a local connection, and then you create a local tunnel with MindStudio and then connect Cloud Code for then you'll be able to create much more powerful interfaces. Okay, and this is what this is here. This is the MindStudio designer combined with Cloud Code. Now, with this new skill MD that I'm releasing, you can now combine these two with the skill, and you're going to be able to create much more powerful, much more professional design interfaces for your applications. The other thing to mention is that even if you just use these two and you create a nice front end, you still have to pass in variables so that you can build your agent and you can capture the user input and pass it on into the flow of that agent. So that's why you're going to end up doing a lot of back and forth with Cloud Code in order to get that completed. But this skill takes care of all that for you because it does have that conversation and make sure that you get the right variables in place and you set them later down the road. So this skill is not only a front-end development skill, but it's tailored for MindStudio in order to capture the right variables and allow you to then create your custom interfaces much easier. And so essentially, this makes this 10 times more powerful. So what I've done is to make things simple, I've basically used some generic prompts, as you can see here. And the idea was to test the difference between using the interface without the skill MD and with the skill MD. And let's see what happens. Okay. So here's an example of what you would get without the skill. You put in your topic, you pick your tone of voice and keywords and list. And then you can decide, for instance, LinkedIn blog. And this would be maybe a user interface for a flow that you would create in MindStudio for an application to create LinkedIn post, blog, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, let's say, videos and all that kind of stuff. So this is without the skill. And this is with the skill. If you notice the difference, we scroll down, you look at the icons, they're much better. And when you click on them, they look much nicer as well. And just the whole layout, as you can see, if you compare this, it's sort of like it's not really separated where there's separation here. So it's just much more professional. So this is a front end skill. Here's another example. This is a chat interface for a pizza shop called Cloud Pizza. And as you can see, this is what we get without the skill. And this is what you get with the skill. In fact, if I were to refresh this, this starts to play out right away. Let me just try refreshing, see if we're going to get that. So here it is playing out. As you can see, it starts off by sort of typing out the response, a little more dynamic than the original that you saw. Here's another example. This is a application I have here for building a meeting prep tool. And we take in some input from the users and we create some collateral for our meeting. And this is, so that was without the skill and this is with the skill. And as you can see, again, there's separations. It's nice and organized in boxes. It just looks like much more professional than you would get just without the skill. So there's much more to this skill than the front-end design skills. One of the things that is important when you're creating user interfaces is the input block has to have some variables to capture the user input into variables and we can pass it on into our flow. So what we can see here is that while I'm interacting with Claude, and in case, for instance, this is the example of one of the things we built, it asks for confirmation on terms of where you want to store the variables. And they actually picked a few names for those variables and incorporated in the code so that when you're looking to create the continuation of that flow, you can just use these variables. And you can also tell it that, no, please change this variable to a different name. That makes creating those custom interfaces for the user block much easier because you don't have to go so much back and forth. And it makes it easier for a beginner as well. So now you can just tell it what you need. It's going to tell you, I'm going to store those particular variables, however number of them might be, into these particular variable names. And then we're going to pass it on to the rest of the flow.